How do I, 33F, explain self-care to my husband, 35 meters? My husband and I have been married for 4 years and have a baby on the way. No problems with the relationship. We usually communicate well and take care of each other. The issue now is, my husband has no notion of self-care. Now he isn't a masculine man's man who thinks you need to suck it up and keep going. But he thinks he's superhuman and can and should face everything head on. We're fixing up a fixer-upper and he takes it as a personal insult that he isn't able to do all the things all by himself like he used to be able to do a decade ago. He strained his back trying to lift something heavy and is beating himself up about growing old and not being in good enough shape, which is preposterous, because he is in much better shape and strength than most men his age. He grumbles and goes to the doctor on my insistence, but follows exactly none of the instructions they give him. He won't rest more than a little. He won't apply ice as frequently as they tell him to. He feels like we're on limited time till the baby comes and it's his last chance to work his ass off on all his personal projects. He doesn't understand how to take rest. He has to be coding or digging dirt or gaming or playing board games or throwing a ball around. He cannot just unwind and do nothing. What's worse, the pandemic has decimated all his support structures. He doesn't see his soccer team anymore or his board game group much. So he's just doubled down on getting the house fixed. We're contracting out the big stuff. It's just small stuff that we're doing ourselves, on work and his personal projects. I'm really truly worried about him because I'm going to be a huge mess once the baby comes. I'm already prone to depression and anxiety, so I'm almost expecting to deal with postpartum depression. But I have my group of friends and my mom's going to be around for support. I won't be able to insist on him taking care of himself like I do now because I'll have my own stuff going on, and I'll probably expect a lot of support from him. But he doesn't have much of a support structure and we haven't found very many books about fatherhood he's found helpful, as compared to the plethora of books about motherhood I've found to be a source of succor. It scares me that he's going to try and shoulder a lot of responsibility as a new parent, without much support and without his mind tuned to figuring out what he needs help with. Especially since we're going to be low on sleep. I manage fine with little sleep, but he's basically a zombie if he doesn't get at least 8 hours. He overdoes things physically and doesn't realize he needs help emotionally. I keep telling him he needs to make his own support structure and I can't do it for him. He won't take care of himself unless I insist. Even when he hurt his back, he wanted to spend the whole evening gaming. I made him lie down with an ice pack and binge on one of the few shows he can tolerate. He hates TV because it's too passive for him. TL doctor, my husband has no concept of self-care. With a house that needs fixing and a baby on the way, there's plenty for him to overdo and I won't be in a state to insist he stop doing so much or share his burden. How do I get through to him on only taking on as much as he can, and asking for help with everything else, and taking some fucking rest? With regard to the physical strain he's putting himself under, he needs to recover properly before straining himself more. Active recovery is very important to healing from injuries, and if he's a seasoned athlete he should know this. Not giving himself time to heal is self-sabotage and he needs to realize this. Maybe your preferred form of recharge, i.e., being completely stationary and watching a show, doesn't work for him. But there are other forms of physical recovery like cardio, yoga, calisthenics, stretches, etc. Convince him to commit to a recovery routine, or better yet, have a sports physio convince him for you. Have you suggested he try therapy? Sometimes this sort of message coming from a third party is more likely to be received. It doesn't have to be couples counseling either. A therapist just for him could hopefully help him navigate all this. When the baby comes you'll need to rightly focus on you. So I'll flip this back around. When you have your baby, will you be okay with things not getting done? With your husband not getting the self-care he needs? Will you put your own needs first to make sure you stay mentally healthy? Good luck! Exclamation mark. So, more than likely he does have a notion of self-care, he just may not realize it, and what he does is not what you typically consider care. You mentioned a couple things which stick out. One you seem to acknowledge is good for his mental health, the others you seem to discount as busy activity. By your own words, for you self-care is to unwind and do nothing. But that's not how all people work. I'm a lot more like your husband. Sitting around watching TV does not help me relax. It's boring and I just wind up wishing I was doing something else. That's the opposite of self-care. You mentioned soccer. You mentioned board games, or gaming, video games I presume, or throwing the ball around. To you this is just stuff he's filling dead time with, but for him this likely is unwinding and relaxing. You're approaching self-care in the way you see it, not asking him how it might work for him. Are you sure that the projects he's undertaking aren't his version of self-care? Your husband sounds a lot like mine, and my definition of relaxing is nothing like his. He can't rest unless the list in his head is complete, and attempting to make him slow down before it's done is actively counterproductive as it just stresses him out more. Sounds like your hubby is pushing himself too hard, but maybe try to help by organizing and making space for him to do it his way. If he doesn't get as far as he wanted before baby arrives, then at least he can say he tried. I can't help him with his personal projects because those are all his code, and though I'm also a programmer, I can't help organize that stuff. My issue is he always has to be doing things that use his body. The machine never gets any rest. How is he supposed to recover from injuries if he won't stay put like the doctor said? If he is at his desk for too long, his shoulder gets fucked up. This one time, I went away for a conference one weekend. He gamed the whole time and fucked up his shoulder. It took weeks to get back to being fine, and the whole time he was filled with self-loathing about how his body isn't perfect. His recovery also would have been quicker if he lay down and didn't use his phone the whole time he lay down. He feels like we're on limited time till the baby comes and it's his last chance to work his ass off on all his personal projects. Hey, as a guy with 2 kids, I just want you to understand that he's correct here. I didn't have free time for myself until my kids could feed themselves, and even then, it was very little. My wife still gets mad at me if I work on even necessary things, like home repairs, or car maintenance, or yard work, because it takes away from time I could be spending with my kids. You might want to reassure him that you won't act this way. If he knows he'll still have some personal time after the baby is born, that will take a lot of the pressure off now. Your wife shouldn't be getting mad at you for doing necessary maintenance stuff, or even for taking reasonable time for yourself, so long as you're giving her time to herself too. My boyfriend puts more effort into video games than our relationship. That's just it. Too long didn't read. My relationship is lonely as fuck. Edit. We're both 25, live together, and have been together for almost 4 years. We don't talk too much because all he talks about is gaming, or going to the gym. And I just can't get on board. Enjoy watching gamers and playing video games too, but I make sure things are taken care of first. All my BF ever says to me is, "You doing okay? How you doing?" And I say I'm fine every time. Just fine. I can't tell him that I want him to stop and hang out with me because gaming makes him so much happier than being with me. I've tried this before and he gets mad and says I don't support his happiness. When he does hang with me, he's on his phone watching video games or bodybuilders. I talk and he doesn't listen because he's distracted. I want to start a homestead and van life, and we've come as far as buying land and starting a van build, and he was so excited. That's what he wanted to, but he would rather play games and focus on his Valorant ranking. I was sobbing yesterday telling him how lonely I am, and how no one talks to me, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then 10 minutes later he's like, "Can I go play video games?" Sad face. Like, okay, I'll just cry silently in my room, and in the shower, and while you're sleeping next to me in bed. And not one time has he caught on. What positive things are you getting out of this relationship? That's a good question and really telling that I can't answer at this moment. Talk to him. Relationships shouldn't be sad. If you aren't getting your needs met, then he needs to know that, and address it, and then fix it. If he can't acknowledge he's doing something wrong and he doesn't care how it affects you, then leave. You deserve a happy relationship. I've definitely talked to him before about this, and he always thinks I'm against him. Girl, I dumped my BF for this exact reason. You just have to really sit down and think, is this what I want for the rest of my life? If not, get out. He's complacent in the relationship and takes you for granted. He's never going to learn. Even if you threaten to dump him, he might shape up for a few weeks, but he'll slide back into his old self as he becomes comfortable again. Dump him. I don't see ages or how long you have been together, but it just doesn't seem like he wants to be in a relationship. I was going to say you two aren't compatible, but all he wants to do is game. He doesn't seem to want a girlfriend in any way, shape, or form. You haven't mentioned any positives that you get from the relationship. No intimacy, no partnership in anything except purchasing the land. I would say have one more attempt at the tough conversation where you say, be present in this relationship or we break up. I fixed it, we're both 25, and I'm so turned off by him being unmotivated to do anything else that I don't really put out anymore. He doesn't really ask too often anymore, and when he does he's always aggressive about it and never soft, if that makes sense. My 26F best friend, 26F, got a boyfriend and then ditched me, and it sucks. I met my best friend Ava like 3 years ago. We both had just graduated college, were new to our city and clicked very quickly. It felt like I'd known her my whole life within months, like we were sisters. We'd spend so much time together, hang out several times a week, etc. About a year into our friendship, I got a boyfriend. I was super mindful of maintaining my friendship with Ava when this happened, because I didn't want her to feel left out, and knew she wanted a boyfriend badly. I still made time for her, especially since she'd had bad luck with dating, and every so often would cry to me about never finding love. I felt bad and always made myself available when she needed a shoulder to cry on, made sure we had girl time, and my boyfriend did a good job of making her feel included as well when we all hung out. Our relationship was pretty unchanged and we were closer than ever. Another year goes by. My boyfriend and I break up and I am absolutely heartbroken. I was a total mess. Around this time, Ava got a boyfriend. Within months, she ditched me completely. She'd make plans, and then she'd cancel them and never reschedule. She'd rarely want to do anything without her boyfriend. I wasn't crazy about the boyfriend, he was kind of weird, but he made her happy, so whatever. I could have maybe tried more with him. He was hard to talk to, but I was heartbroken and not myself. I felt like a shell of myself though going through the breakup, and was really hurt that I'd been there for my friend when she needed me, and now that the tables turned, I was all alone. Anyways, over the course of the year, our relationship deteriorated and we don't even talk anymore. I tried to reach out to her and make plans a few times, but she always flaked. She's still with her boyfriend, and I still have no one. They'll probably get married, and I still feel super bitter. I feel like I lost the two people closest to me in the course of the year. Losing a boyfriend sucks, but I'm more hurt that I was there for my friend, and she ditched me. I've made other friends in the past year, but no one I feel the same connection to as my friend. I don't know what advice I'm asking for here. I just feel wronged that my friend left me behind when I would never do the same to her. I guess now I worry I'll never find people I'm close to again, and if I do, they'll just leave me. Too long didn't read. Best friend ditched me the second she got a boyfriend and I went through breakup, and I'm still hurt. Look at it in the positive. You were taught a lesson about temporary people, and you'll start to see that a lot in your adult life. But it's okay. Temporary people are there to exactly that. Be temporary. All are not meant to stay forever. So instead of dwelling on it, accept the fact you had a great time but that is now over and move on. Maybe you'll reconnect in the future. Maybe you won't. But what's done is done, so you take a deep breath and move on. Start accepting that it is what it is. You'll say that a lot in your adult years. Best of wishes. Thanks guys, reading your comments really pepped me up. 3. I don't have much advice but I can relate. Didn't lose the boyfriend part but I made a best friend, 25F-ish too, for the first time in years when I moved to a new place. Then she got a boyfriend and moved far away to be with him, leaving all her friends behind and essentially dropping all contact. It's hard and it doesn't get easier. I won't lie, it's still super hard to find new friends, especially women above 25. You can check in on her to make sure it's not the boyfriend taking away her friends, but don't be surprised when it's just her making those decisions. What I've tried to do is just remember the old times and not try so hard to rekindle things because she has outgrown me and our old friends. Remember the happy times, not the shitty times, and try and make new friends and hobbies. Be a support for her should she ever need it. Many people seem to abandon their friendship groups when they have a romantic relationship to replace it with. It is sad. Just know that it isn't your fault and that you are not alone.